That was an earlier interview with both sets of teams. That's the Malkia Strikers and, of course, the Kenya men's volleyball team. The Kenya men's volleyball team departing the country tomorrow for Rwanda, where they'll be going hunting for this elusive African Cup of Nations title. They've been out there in the past years, but unfortunately, it's never been a win for them. Will it be first time lucky for them? Wishing them all the best. Then, of course, Malkia Strikers, working it out to try and get back this title from Cameroon, who of late have been a thorn in their flesh. Cameroon winning the past 2 titles, and Kenya hoping that they can bounce back and beat Cameroon and become the African queens as well. But like Mercy Moim says, not just Cameroon, they have Tunisia to focus on, they have Senegal, but their hope is they get to the final, then anything else, will come to play. Wishing them all the best as the Kenya men's volleyball team departs the country tomorrow for Rwanda. Then the ladies Malkia Strikers will be leaving on the 10th of this month. Wishing all of them the best and hoping that we can be a powerhouse in the game of volleyball. Well, now we change gears and move from the volleyball courts and talk about a sport that is slowly picking up lots of interest. If you are a Formula One fan like I do, then this is one of those sports that definitely you'll have to develop an interest in, because more or less the same but are different in a few aspects from the way the race is run, etc. But we'll be talking about that. I'm talking about motorsport, and we are privileged and honored to be joined by Mr. Zameer Verjee, who is a 3-time champion of autocross in the country. He's been out there, he understands what it means, and he's been a key pillar in autocross championship in the country. He's taking part in the KCB autocross rounds of championship in the country, and at the moment he is the one to beat. And talking about that, he had a very, very tough time in Mombasa, which we'll be talking about as well on how the Mombasa round was. But first and foremost, to introduce and welcome him in studio. Zameer, welcome to the studio. Nice to see you.
Thank you very much. Nice to see you too.
Well, karibu sana. It's been a grueling 3 years for you, but of all these 3 years, it looks like you are the one to beat. How does it feel being at the top and everyone is chasing after you?
It feels good, obviously, but we started also from the bottom and we came where we are. But there's also a lot of good competition, so we have to give even credit to everyone around us that helps us get faster and better and puts the pressure on.
Well, Zameer, as we look at this, the first question that many would ask is, what's the difference between autocross and rallying? Because there is autocross, there is rally, there are those who go for GP, karting, etc. But the key thing is, what's the difference between autocross and rallying?
Of course, the difference is, of course, that's a rally is a long haul, and autocross is short haul. So it's also more affordable than rally. And rally is more intriguing, needs more time of your week and of your schedule, opposed to autocross. So I believe that's why autocross is getting more popular, because of the affordability, and also it's just a day event.
And you are alone, as opposed to rallying, where you must have your navigator to be telling you sharp bend to the right, slow jump, etc.
That's true, but we get a sighting lap normally before every event. It means we parade through it, we are allowed to walk it, and then try.
You register it in your mind?
Well, you try. but walking and then when you're driving is 2 different things. The speeds are different, but yes, some tracks are common, some are not, so we try our best.
Well, as we look at some of the images from autocross, not been easy at all, because the weather conditions come to play. This, I think, is rallying, but as we look at all this, Zameer, are we likely to see you in the rally in the years to come?
Definitely, I don't see why not. But right now, let me perfect my skills here, and then we can get up there.
Okay, as we look at this, we are looking at very tough moments in terms of clearly getting out into the dust and stuff. What are the safety aspects that you must look into before you go into autocross?
Okay, the good thing is the KMSF is FIA regulated, so we have to follow all safety measurements.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, so from the roll cage to the fire extinguisher to the overall to the protection kits, whatever we wear, is all FIA approved.
Well, interesting indeed, because looking at all these images that we are seeing, a lot of dust out there. And apart from this, dusty conditions are always very exciting for some of them. Do you prefer a wet or a dry autocross circuit anytime you go out there?
Look, I enjoy, whenever I go on the track, I always enjoy. So for me, it's whether wet or dry, I'm ready, and I like to have some good fun and deliver some good pace.
Looking at this, and now that you've mentioned one time maybe making it to the safari, what do you make of the WRC safari event that was held in the country? A lot of excitement throughout the country.
It was a lot of excitement. They delivered. They did a great job preparing the whole team behind the scenes, in front of the scenes. It was a difficult task, but they delivered, and I'm so happy that it's back.
Now that it's back and we have it, a lot is expected of us. But now let's talk about the autocross. And, it's a 10-round KCB-sponsored, autocross. Mombasa was not a good hunting ground for you for the first time. What do you make of it, and what happened in Mombasa?
I love racing in Mombasa, but unfortunately, as part of the sport, mechanical issues or the driver is not up to date or not delivering. But I'm not going to blame any tools. I'm just going to say that I had an unfortunate circumstance with one of my sensors in the car and didn't allow me to deliver at quick pace.
Well, as we look at that, that's very okay, because very okay in the sense that as we look at all that has been happening, we look at all that and we look at Mombasa as a good hunting ground for you, personally. But when we don't look at Mombasa, you've been champion for 3 years, 3 consecutive years. Of all these years, which was the most difficult year that you would say that we went through, but that was one worth looking at in the years to come and say that was worth it?
I would say the first one, obviously, because I was getting used to the car and the competitors. But every year is different. It always gets more competitive, New drivers come along, so they keep you on your toes. So I think every year is going to be challenging in its own manner, to be honest.
And of all the rounds, which is the most difficult? I know in rallying, I've personally been to Guru Nanak in, Longonot, and many drivers complain of, that the terrain and stuff, which has been the most difficult for you as we look at some of the, the dusty images in autocross.
I think they all are different in their own manner, but I would say that the harder one would probably be the one that's going to be tomorrow at Jamhuri, because the track is familiar, but it's also got twists and different terrain in terms of roughness and smoothness. So I would say that, but the rest, but every track has its challenges, and all clubs try their best to give us the best surface.
And as we look at tomorrow's, how prepared are you, based on the experience in Mombasa, which was the last round?
Okay, well, the car is ready, we are ready, and yes, I think we are ready to hit the road running and hopefully deliver a good result.
Many look at autocross and compare it somehow to Formula One. You must be a fan of Formula One.
Yes, I am, definitely.
Well, lots of intrigues last weekend from a Formula One point, bad weather where you're prepared, but the weather just can't allow you. Have you experienced some in autocross?
Yes, there is, especially when it's wet because of your grip, and it depends if it's black cotton, red soil, which surface you're on, which part of the country you're in. So definitely that does occur. You can be prepared, but again, Mother Nature doesn't allow you, so.
Well, we'll be talking more about, what to expect because the weather can as well dictate and decide that it's not happening. That's Mother Nature, and that's what happened in the Belgium Formula One last weekend, where the drivers could not just make it out into the race. 2 laps, and it had to be called off, red flag. It's happening again this weekend in the Dutch Formula One, a lot expected. But here, we are talking to Zameer Verjee about the autocross. He is the Kenyan champion. Let's go into a short commercial break. When we come back, we now start talking about this season's proper. What's his expectation? How prepared is he? And it starts off tomorrow, but after this short commercial break. Welcome back. That was a short commercial break. We have to pay bills as well. Remember, we are talking to Zameer Verjee, who is the current champion in autocross in the country, 3-time consecutive, and he is the man to beat. Talking to us about the difference between autocross and rallying, and of course, letting us know what to expect going forward. The next autocross round will be happening tomorrow at the Jamhuri grounds, and that is one that kicks off his quest for defending his title. Looking forward to the same. Zameer, now we are looking at a point where everyone is running after you and they want to beat you. What's the secret that has made you champion for the last 3 years?
Well, I don't think there's a special ingredient, but I have to give credit to my support team, which is, of course, my dad, who prepares my car for me.
Wow. Okay.
He was a former rally driver as well, and then my mom and my sisters, and my family and friends, my sponsors, Athiani, Pewin, EZ Plants, and the main one, Studio EZ. So I think it's just the support and the overwhelming push that you get when you're in the event, and you enjoy yourself, and you just give it all you have.
There are those who believe that it is not a cheap sport, even though from a rallying point of view, it is cheaper compared to looking at a rally car, where you get a puncture, that's the end of that tire completely. You have to purchase new ones. How cheap is running an autocross car to be able to compete and become champion, maybe even a single season?
I won't say it's cheap, but again, depends on what someone calls cheap. But yes, if you want to really be at the top of your game, you have to always keep your car in check. You can't just leave it like half-half, change your tires regularly, servicing, oils, whichever other parts that you feel are slightly hammered, you change them. So it depends how you approach it at the end of the day.
And as you look at that, I mean, you must get or you must have sponsors to keep you afloat in terms of all this for you to, to move. How easy is it to get sponsors in autocross? We've seen rally drivers really struggling to get sponsorship or to get money to keep them going. How easy is it to attract sponsors, or is it an individual initiative to get sponsors to keep going?
I would prefer the latter, yes, individual initiative. Because no matter, it's very hard to get sponsors. Currently, I have a few that I'm really grateful to. So Athiani FM, Pewin, Bounty Water, EZ, they really make it possible, because at the end of the day, every penny costs. So I'm grateful for that, but that's a personal initiative and probably relation.
As you look at that, Zameer, do you want to look at it that there is no more competition at this level? Maybe you want to graduate, if not into rallying, but you want to graduate across the borders to battle with the best within the continent. How are you looking at being a champion for 3 consecutive seasons in autocross in the country? Is it that there is no enough competition, or at times you're pushed to the limit and you get the best out of you as a result of the same?
Again, I prefer the latter. I think it's not that there's no competition. There's a lot of competition. There are really talented, brilliant drivers out there, really quick, really good. Even drivers I look up to. And yes, so definitely cross-border is a possibility. But for now, I'm focusing on the local, and then we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Mombasa was not a good one, mechanical issues. And now that Dad, is handling all the mechanical work and stuff, how mad were you with him? Or it's one of those things that happened?
It wasn't anything to do with him. It was just the car that just decided a machine has to give away once in a while, right? So it was one of those, but it was nothing to do with Dad. Dad is the one who actually managed to make me finish 3rd in my group, so I could save some points on the board. So I wasn't mad at all. I was actually very happy.
Very happy. Remember, you're watching KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner, your weekly program that brings them here in studio to just give you an opening of what makes them tick and how to approach any sport. If autosport is your sport, we are privileged and honored to be joined by Zameer Verjee, who is a 3-time autocross champion in the country, with us and telling us what autocross is all about. And Zameer, as we look at this, tomorrow you kick off from Jamhuri after a bad start in Mombasa. What's in stake? What have you done differently that can give you hope that tomorrow's autocross will be better than Mombasa?
We've tried to make sure the car is okay, seems to be fine, and I'm ready. I'm going to attack, I'm going to hit the road running, and maximum pace, that's for sure.
So it's a clear warning to the rest that we are back, we are bouncing back.
They'll know when we're there.
They will know when you are there. What a way to call out that. But looking at it, what's your expectation of the other rounds in the season? Because we know that, it can be messy, it can be untidy. You have to take round after round and always assess where you went wrong as you improve going into the next. What's your plan for the entire season in terms of defending your title?
Well, that's part of the sport. Every heat, I take it heat by heat to see how I can improve and see where my good friends, should I call them competitors, what timings they're doing, what I'm doing, and where I can fare better, or where do I feel I lost time. So I take heat by heat and a race by race. So I don't look at 5 races in a row. I'll take tomorrow's race, heat by heat, and hopefully a good result.
For the interest of my viewer back at home who is looking at it and is like, wow, if I was to get into this sport, briefly, explain how the sport or how you get points. It's run on a circuit like you mentioned earlier on. Is it the number of runs you do? Is it the fastest lap that you do that earns you point like we see in Formula One? How do you get points to become champion by the end of the day?
So in every event, we have 5 heats. The first one is practice, which is not counted. Then you have 4 official heats, which they take the 3 of the 4. Accumulative time. And then the fastest time gets bonus 2 points. And if you win your category, 20 points.
Wow. And what's the secret to be at the top? Because we realized last weekend in the Belgium Formula One that at times qualifying can be very critical for you to be up there and you get maximum, and you just never know. If nature decides like it decided last weekend, you garner points from nowhere just with that 2-lap race.
No, I think that's very true. But in our scenario, we don't do qualifying. Mm-hmm. We're already paired initially by the organizers, and so qualifying really doesn't count for us. No, not for us, no.
So it's, as you go, the 3 to get points out of the 3 of the 4.
Yes.
It clearly means that you must give it your best.
Correct.
In those 3.
Correct. That's correct.
In a loop.
Correct.
How many kilometers?
I think tomorrow is 2.3 or 4, unless they've changed. I don't know. But again, there's 2 lanes tomorrow, so you race side by side.
Mm-hmm. It's a twin race.
It's a twin race, so it makes it fun for the driver and the spectators.
Wow. And if it's dusty, then you have to follow the dust all through. Being a twin circuit, of course, there is an interchange somewhere.
Of course, there is. They have a bridge and an underpass.
Where they used to do the safari before the rally.
Yes,
they used to go for the twin
pre-stage.
Exactly.
Yes, that one. Yes.
Okay. For the viewer back at home, you've mentioned it is cheap, but it depends on how you look at cheap. Mm-hmm. But the safety aspects of it, we saw in the rally some of the cars not, making it through to the main rally as a result of failing through scrutineering. Mm-hmm. What are those safety aspects which is a must that you must look into now that we are even in COVID-19 situations?
So if I'm to start with COVID, the organizers themselves give you regulations, like you're only allowed 4 plus the driver, your team. You cannot have more than that. Social distancing, sanitizing, wearing your mask at all times, of course. And of course, safety of the car is, like I said, is followed by the FIA, the roll cage, the extinguisher, what you wear, your suit, your gloves, your helmet, that's all cross-checked. So they do a very good job.
How protected is one in the event of, in the unlikely event of, the car turning around, no cages. Okay, of course there is the roll bar and stuff, but how protected are you? And no windscreen, no nothing.
Now, again, that depends where you land, I guess. But we have ambulances on the ground. We have marshals and stewards who run straight to you, flag it up. The ambulance comes, they put you back, check, make sure you're okay. So I must give Autocross, the commission, and KMSF the credit for what they're doing.
For KMS and maybe you as one of the leading, autocross drivers in the country, how do we popularize the sport in the country to make it big? Because it is slowly picking traction. Fans already coming out looking at how people follow autocross, and you see people lining up to enjoy it. How do we popularize it even more going into the future?
The first and foremost is that we have KCB on board who's sponsoring it, and we're very grateful. Without them, I don't think it would have this hype already. So with them staying with us, we'll continue, definitely. And I believe the motorsport board knows better on how to publicize. So I'm going to leave them to decide on how to publicize events.
As we look at publicizing the event and what to do going into the future, definitely if we want to get more, there are those who are right now looking at you and saying, when I grow up, I want to be like Zameer. What advice would you give them? Is there a shortcut to this? How did you end up here? Because you must have started from scratch, like you said, to be a champion. You started from zero.
Yeah, I think, there's no shortcut in my opinion. And also, when I started, I used to fight for last place. So we have to start somewhere and believe in ourselves and move forward. There's nothing that comes easy.
Well, as we look at that, we look at a situation where starting from somewhere, discipline is key. What drove you into autocross? Before we even now look at this, you found yourself there. You didn't just wake up, but something must have,
yes,
moved you.
I grew up in a family, or should I say, my dad was Kenya Rally up there, and it's always had that bug in me. So I said, I want to try to revive that in the best way possible. So I said, let me start with autocross and see where it goes.
Autocross is a sport that, coming up, run in circuits. And of course, as we look at what's been happening across, and of course, KCB coming in to sponsor, that clearly means that you have an opportunity to popularize and talk much about it. And of course, even us as stakeholders in the media need to do a bit in terms of popularizing,
yes,
the sport. We look at it, and it's so clear that a lot comes in, and of course, we look at a situation where government also must come in, safety aspects of it, and of course, when we look at COVID protocols, all stakeholders must pull in the right direction. You've mentioned ambulance, there is security. How is it like in terms of having all the stakeholders? Who are the real stakeholders apart from just the drivers and of course KMS, Kenya Motorsports? There must be other stakeholders involved in this, security and of course medical.
Yeah, so security, like you said, medical, most importantly without spectators, which I know due to COVID is restricted. Without them doesn't make the sport possible. So of course there's them, there's the local community, depends where you're racing. But definitely, wherever the race goes, it brings in some kind of influence, whether it's financial or whichever way you want to look at it. It's a good impact.
As we look at that, where do you see yourself in the next 5-10 years to come from a motorsport point? I'm saying motorsport because it could be in rallying, it could be still in autocross. Where do you see yourself?
Well, I haven't thought that far. But for sure, I'm going to probably be in the same fraternity, but probably more diverse.
Well, I'm looking at that then, of course, I'm looking at, different angles to it. You've mentioned having come from a rallying family. Who is your role model?
I'll start with my dad. I have to start there because that's where I got it from. So I'll start there. And then, of course, I have the Colin McRae. And then you have the current Tanak, Ogier. So, yes, we look at them. Noville, yeah.
Jury.
We aspire to them.
Okay, let's shift focus a bit to Formula One. Who do you be routing for this time round?
I'm a big fan of Kimi Raikkonen, and he's retiring this season. So I wish him all the best. And then, of course, Vettel. And I would like Max Verstappen to give you a good run as well.
You had to say that, seriously. I mean, why Max? Why Max with Red Bull?
It makes the sport fun. You can't have one person winning all the time. So when there's competition, of course, it's enjoyable to watch and try to predict.
Why not allow Lewis to break the, go 8 times then? I mean, now we let it for everyone else.
Well, that's part of the sport. So we will have to ask Max that, I guess.
But I mean, it's good for competitiveness. Even seeing George Russell last weekend into the podium.
It's very important for any sport, not only racing. You need competition. It pushes you forward, makes you train harder, and get better.
What are some of the learnings that you, as Zameer, picked? If we look at what happened last weekend in Belgium, that the weather at times can call off, a race. What are some of the learnings that you picked from a security point of view or from a safety point of view as an autocross driver, having seen very wet conditions can make it very difficult? And that's Formula One. The vehicle is more or less the same with autocross. The difference is you have roll cages, which they don't have, and at times you really get scared with the speeds that they do. What are some of the safety aspects that you've learned from Formula One that are helping you in autocross?
Again, the first thing I'll say, you can't compare the speeds they do with what we do is very different.
And the surface, of course.
And the surface, of course. So in these conditions, you have tires that are appropriate for certain conditions, which help you get traction, which keeps you on the track. Of course, at the end of the day, you have to know how to drive in those conditions to keep yourself safe. But if you have all the FIA compliances, you should be okay.
But you don't get, those crazy pit stops that we see. We don't do it in autocross.
In autocross, there's no pit stop. You do your heat, your time is recorded. So you get a puncture, it's too bad.
What's been your fastest time in a circuit, say 2.5 or 3 kilometers, or the longest circuit that you've run through? What's been your best time?
The longest circuit was Mombasa with my gremlins, but I think I did a 2:24. 4:24.
4:24.
Yeah.
4 minutes.
Yeah.
Wow. As we start winding up this, Zameer, what message would you have for any enthusiast of autocross right now looking at you who would want to be in autocross in the future?
There's nothing impossible. If you want to do something, go for it, but make calculated decisions, and you'll definitely have a good time, and also do whatever you can afford.
Doing that, but of course discipline is key, and being a disciplined person, there are no shortcuts.
That's a given. It has to be that way.
We've seen cases where, we've seen a lot happening with the doping cases. We don't see a lot from a autocross or motorsport point of view, but it would be good to just mention something about it.
Yeah, I agree. All sports, I think, need to be checked on that, but at the current scenario, I think we're all very disciplined from what I see and know, so I'm not too concerned about that.
Okay, and as we look at this, you come from a very popular family where, the name is so popular. Do you think that gives you or puts you under pressure to deliver and continue the name? I mean, Zameer, the Verjees, that's a very big name in motorsport in the country. Does that put you under any pressure?
Yes and no. Yes, well, I guess I'm living up to it for now. I hope to continue, but definitely, yes, I would like to maintain that trend.
Okay, as we wind up this, Zameer, of course, we are looking at you in autocross and hopefully likely to, if we can see you in the KNRC circuit, if we were, would you be as crazy as the other drivers are at the moment? Because we know there are very, very, very experienced drivers out there, and if you were to get in, you'd have to start from scratch again, but you never know. Many, of course, know you and they respect that name as of now.
True, I agree, but that's on a whole nother level, and I have a lot of respect for them because I've never done a long haul like they do or had a co-driver. So definitely it's something that I'd look forward to.
Okay, as we look at that, thank you very much, Zameer, for making time to be with us. We appreciate you making time and wishing you all the best. And we'll also make time to be at Jamhuri tomorrow.
I hope to see you tomorrow.
Just to see how crazy it can be. You never know, it could be my starting point to also be part of the autocross.
You never know.
But okay, that also gives us an opportunity tomorrow to watch Formula One together.
Why not?
Thank you very much. That has been a discussion with Zameer Verjee, who is current leader in the two-wheel non-turbo buggy class, autocross, and he's been a three-time champion. He is the man to beat, where many are really running after him. Did not have a good run in Mombasa, but hopes to bounce back in Jamhuri circuit. That's tomorrow in the KCB-sponsored round of the autocross. Wishing him all the best and looking forward for more. Zameer, thank you very much for making time.
Pleasure is mine. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much. Up next, we are talking about, a very, very experienced individual who made Kenya in the map. We are talking about an individual who went out there and the biggest stage of them all set a world record. That's 800 meters.